Hi guys, we'll start with the broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargoed section. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please, and use the microphone provided. James.
Hi Ange, how's Richarlison's calf?
Yeah, not good. He'll miss. He'll miss the next two games. So nothing serious, but obviously enough to keep him out of next two games. And Bissouma, unfortunately, picked up a knee injury on the weekend's game, so he'll miss sort of the last two games of the season as well. Everyone else who played is okay.
A proportion of your fans won't want you to win this game. How do you feel about that and the potential atmosphere it might create?
A proportion of our fans. What does that mean?
Difficult
what
to say.
What proportion?
Difficult to say how many.
Really? What, 50%? 20%? 1%? Just give me a rough estimate in your mind.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
All right,
so let's answer a question we don't know the answer to. Yeah, that's fine. People are allowed to feel the way they do, but I think I've been, again, really consistent and I think really strong in my beliefs that, you know, it's important for this football club to get to where we want to not look for some silver bullet that's going to get us to where we want to. It's hard work, it's perseverance, it's resilience, it's quality that'll get us what we want. Not to fall for any sort of false dawns or any short-term result reactions, stick to the course. And thirdly, know what real success looks like. Real success looks like trophies. Anything else in between, bragging rights, whatever it is absolutely meaningless to me, to anyone involved with me. We've got a game tomorrow, we want to win.
How might the players handle that atmosphere, though? Do you think it'll have an impact?
What atmosphere? You haven't told me. So you think the majority of our fans are going to want us to not win tomorrow night? I don't see it that way. I think the majority of our fans will create the atmosphere they've always created at our home games. And as I said, irrespective, we've got a game of football to win, and that's what we're going to try and do.
And how much confidence can you take from your recent home record against Manchester City? Pep Guardiola's side have never won at the Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, my recent home record is one loss against Manchester City, mate. So I'm not going to take any confidence from that. So what I'll take confidence from is, we've got an opportunity to measure ourselves against, the best. Tomorrow night, a team that's consistently striving for honours, a team that we want to try and emulate one day, and the best way to do that is to measure yourself against them by being yourself. And we'll go out there tomorrow night, play our football, and see where it takes us.
Charlie.
Hi, Ange. You just kind of touched on it, but how big a test is this for Spurs, given the fact that your team just got back to winning ways on the weekend following that run of losses?
Yeah, I don't think that doesn't really matter. Anytime you're going to play against Man City, particularly if you're going to play them towards the end of the year when they're always, it seems to be at their best. It's a hell of a challenge whether you've gone into it, winning 9 in a row, or like us, just one game. It's always going to be a test, but that's the exciting bit. You want the test, you want the opportunity to take them on, and we get that at home tomorrow.
In terms of the Champions League race, if Villa beat Liverpool tonight, they will secure it for next season. Will you be watching the game? Will you be keeping an eye on the result of that match? Yeah,
I'll be watching the game because it's a good game of football, two good teams, and but I never stress or worry about things I can't control. And what I do know is we've got 2 games to go, 6 points to play for, and we want to try and see how many points of those we can get.
And finally, just going back to Richarlison, will he travel with the team to Australia next week?
Just depending on the medical treatment. I mean, the whole group will travel to Australia unless there's medical treatment needed.
Ian.
But he wouldn't be available for the game because it's just too close, yeah.
Hi, Ange, how are you?
I'm good, mate.
If a proportion of the Spurs fans, and it might straw a poll of 4, 2 want you to win, 2 don't.
So you reckon it's 50% of our fan base, according to your poll?
Fan base, I know, yeah. If a proportion don't want you to win, nearly every Arsenal fan I know does want you to win tomorrow night. Have you ever been in this position before? You've known this position before?
What's that?
Whereby your deadliest rivals want you to win because basically you'd hand them the title.
I don't know. I've never thought of sport in that way. I'm sure, I like I said, there's a pretty simple notion to this. There's a game of football tomorrow night. what do you think is going to happen? What do you think we are going to do as a team, or any team on this planet? Are we going to just try and win? It's a simple, basic premise. Now, how that makes people feel, I'm not really fussed. I don't really care. I'd hate to think that anyone thinks that we would go out there tomorrow night with anything other than trying to measure ourselves against a top team and maybe win a game of football that's consequential. How are we ever going to become a team that wins things if we don't win the big games, if we shy away from it? So why would we shy away from a challenge tomorrow night that exists? So, look, I get it. And look, you know, your straw poll of Arsenal fans, if it's correct, then we're going to walk out to 50% of boos and 50% of cheering tomorrow night. But I think that's highly unlikely.
Moving it along a bit.
Let's do that.
Yes, do that. The last couple of home games, your centre-halves have cropped up in un-centre-half-like positions to score goals. Can we expect to see more of that, not only tomorrow, but moving forward with you?
Look, it's part of our sort of evolution, and I think, you know, the great thing for us through this, particularly through this tough spell, is just seeing, as I said, for me, it's great because I just see how people react to it, you know, players. And I think there's certain individuals that have just really sort of gritted their teeth and wanted to change the course of events, not accept it. And, you know, I think probably because of kind of the nature of the where we are as a team at the moment, it's been the defenders, you know. It wasn't just the centre-halves. Pedro scored an unbelievable goal on the weekend. But I've loved seeing that. I've loved seeing the growth in guys like Mickey and Romero and others in there who you would never see unless you went through tough times. And I think that's important, you know. And you know, it's one of those things where you know that if you can tap into it moving forward, because again we'll have other challenges, is, you know, those kind of guys are showing the way to kind of change that course of events. So, you know, for me that's it's really something to grasp onto.
And finally, you're up against Pep tomorrow, who you spoke about earlier in the season in the games you played, both at City and the FA Cup game. Just talk to us about the achievement of winning a league title year after year after year in the league. You did it with Celtic. He could be on the verge of doing it for the first time ever 4 times in this league.
Yeah, it is incredible. And yeah, sometimes people think, well, you know, once you win it once, it should become easier. But actually, it becomes more difficult. You've got a target on your back, and every year you've got to sort of consistently try and, you know, get guys to climb the mountain again, knowing they've already done it. And it's particularly in the Premier League when you know the demands of the competition, and obviously, you know, they're always fighting. You know, City are always fighting on multiple fronts in terms of, you know, competition. So, look, I think it's a testament not just to Pep but to the whole organisation. They've stayed really sort of disciplined on a blueprint of how they want to achieve success, and they're bearing that fruit.
Charlie.
Just wanted to ask you, from like your perspective as a football fan as well, like how much of a issue it is when you have a team with this level of dominance. We've never seen it. Team winning 4 in a row. They do it in such a way, it's, you know, they can seem almost unbeatable. When does that become an issue, do you think, as a fan of another team, that you start kind of feeling like it's hopeless?
Well, they haven't done it yet.
No, they haven't.
So that's an important point,
sure,
isn't it? Yeah.
But if they do...
Yeah, but that's what I mean. They haven't done it yet. But if you think they have, then it does become an issue, because all of us are just sort of putting down the red carpet for them. I'm not going to do that. And I think other managers will do that. I'm certainly not going to sit down and just, you know, watch them win again. That doesn't sit comfortably with me. But that's in the hands of each, you know, club to try and break that dominance, or, you know, and try and, you know, create teams that will challenge their dominance. You know, as a supporter, I mean, I've always felt as a supporter, I don't know. I mean, I have been a supporter of the game, and obviously I've supported clubs when I was younger. I was just interested in my club. I didn't care about anyone else, you know. I just wanted my club to win. I just wanted my club to be successful. Couldn't care less about other teams apart from hating them to the core of my being. But apart from that, I just wanted my team to be successful.
And just thinking ahead again to that game and the kind of fan perspective, And I think I would actually go further. From the Spurs fans I speak to, I'd say the majority, what they're saying anyway, is that they do hope Spurs lose the game, which I'm not saying I agree with. I think it's, but I just wonder, do you think, obviously, Schadenfreude and laughing at your rivals has always been a big part of football. Do you think it's becoming, in the social media age or whatever, is it becoming an even bigger thing now than it was?
Oh, look, if you go by social media, yeah, there's probably 99% of Spurs supporters who don't, if that's your world, but please don't tell me that's your world, Charlie.
No.
There's such a bigger world out there, mate. Oh, my God, please. We'll need to have a counselling session, if that's your world. Like I said, to me, I don't understand it. I understand rivalry. I was part of one of the biggest ones in the last couple of years in the world with Celtic and Rangers, and I understand rivalry, but I will never understand if somebody wants their own team to lose. That's not what sport's about. That's not what I love about the game. I love what I love more than anything else in the game is the competitiveness of, challenging yourself to beat someone and come out successful. Anything outside of that, it's got nothing to do with sport as far as I'm concerned. It's nothing to do with me. I just, if other people treat it that way where they derive pleasure from others' misery, that's not how I've lived my life. That's not how I perceive my role. My role is to bring success to this football club, and whatever proportion, whether it's these two mates or your 99% of people I know 100% of Spurs supporters want us to win, be successful and win trophies. That is without a shadow of a doubt. And us winning tomorrow night will help us, sort of bring joy to 100% of Spurs supporters.
And just on Mickey, who obviously you played really well in that left-back role, and you talked about how the reason really hasn't done that is the physicality of it. Just thinking then ahead tomorrow, does that mean him from the start there is probably unrealistic in such a big game?
No, look, as I said, I think from my perspective, I'm always mindful, and I think I've said it quite a number of times, and you can either take me on face value or not, is that I make decisions on all the information I have, and that information always isn't available and to the general public for good reason. But, there's reasons why we do what we do. Mickey, has had an unbelievable first year. Just astounding the levels he's already played at. But we want him here for a long time, and we want him to be the best possible player he can be. And part of his year has also mean he's had a couple of injuries that we've got to be really careful about how we use him, where we use him, and why we're using him in those areas. Not just him, like a lot of the players, particularly, when you're talking about the physical output we need in different areas. So, from that perspective, it doesn't mean we wouldn't play him there tomorrow night, or we wouldn't play him there on the weekend, or like we did use him. But all these decisions are made with, the full knowledge of the information we have at hand, and I'll always do what's best, I think, for the club.
Ali.
Hi, Ange. We saw you on the pitch with your family in the lap of appreciation after the game. It looked like a lovely moment. The whole stadium was singing your name. Was there slight mixed feelings for you? Because when you normally do those, you've got this history of having trophies when you do these lap of appreciations. Is that something that kind of you appreciated the pride of the moment, but also drive you on to provide more next season?
No, look, you can look at these things two ways. I think it is important you acknowledge the fans, and obviously we've got a game tomorrow night, but obviously it's a late game, and we thought, the weekend was a good time to do that because they've been a big part of our year. They've kind of stuck behind us from day one. I think they've appreciated what we've tried to do, and a lot of our home games this year have ended in pretty exciting victories, and I think that the supporters have helped. So it was a good chance to just sort of say thanks to them for their support this year, and I think that's important. And the families, I often say, but they're the ones that kind of making the massive sacrifices through the year, and it just gives them that little bit of acknowledgement that they more than deserve. And I often say to players, when it's all said and done, the fans may move on to new heroes. You guys won't be talking about them. People won't be calling them up as much as they used to, but their families will be there right, even after their playing careers are finished. So it's important you appreciate them while you're in your career. Don't wait till after. So You know, I thought, look, it's a nice moment, but you know, I wasn't out there celebrating anything. That's for sure. That'll come. That's the plan. But at the same time, you should take a moment to just be thankful. I think, you know, for me, that's what's important in that moment. Thankful for the club I'm at, the supporters who are supporting me, and most importantly for my family who allow me to do what I want.
Just back on Richarlison quickly, it seemed like he was left out of the Brazil squad for the Copa America because of his injury. Would he have been fit or not? Now you've got the scan results. Would he have been fit if selected to play at the Copa America?
No, he probably missed 3-4 weeks at least, I think, from what I understand, from what the guys are telling me. Yeah.
And just the last one quickly. Dane Scarlett came on, looked quite bright at the weekend. What's the next step for him? What's his kind of development? Where does he go?
Yeah, look, he's like a lot of the young guys. It's just about, you know, making an impact when you get opportunities, and then, you know, trying to build a body of work that allows them then to, you know, to progress their careers. You know, Dane's had probably a bit of a frustrating year for himself. That, you know, his loan move didn't work out, and you know, obviously he's had limited opportunities in the first team, but. You know, he's there. He's in the squad at the moment. Got some minutes the other day. You know, he had a couple of good moments. You know, might get opportunities in the last 2 games. It's like any other young player. You've got to take the opportunities that are before you and make an impact and sort of grow your career.
George.
Hi, Ange. You mentioned Bissouma's out tomorrow. Will that be a sort of straight swap with Højbjerg as it has been, or will you look at other options?
No, we've got some options in there. Obviously, you know, Pierre and you know, Rodri came on, did well the other night to replace Biss, I thought, and Skippy's always an option in there. So we've got some options in the midfield. Disappointing for Biss because he, like I said, I thought his last 3 games, I think he was back to sort of his early season form, and he felt that as well. He's had a disrupted season. So, but as I said, it's the way our season seems to have gone. No one's had a real clear run of games to really kind of build on, and yeah, disappointing for him. He was desperate to play, and you know, would have done anything to play tomorrow night, these last 2 games. But again, I think with Biss, you know, this year, as much as you know it's been disruptive for him, I just think it sets him up really well for next year because you know he'll know where our expectations are. You know, he'll know the levels he can reach playing our football, and I'm sure he'll start pre-season you know, ready to make an impact.
And you mentioned about some of the young players in terms of Dane. I mean, Man City have obviously got a lot of money, but they've actually produced a lot of really important academy players. Where do you sort of look at the Spurs academy at the minute? You spoke about it a few months ago. Have you been impressed with what those guys have done over the last few months? And do you think some of them could push into, you know, trying to force their way into the first team next season?
Yeah, look, I think you know, there's definitely you know, this year the under 21s, the under 18s have shown some real promise and some real growth, which is important. But it's a big step between that and playing first team football. And I think, you know, you mentioned Manchester City. There are various ways to get to first team. You know, the guys like Foden and Palmer, you know, kind of didn't go out on loan, stayed there and trained with the first team without many opportunities, and eventually broke through. Others went out on loan, and so I think there's different ways. But what I do know with young players is your best chance of having them come in and sort of make an impact is to have a real stable senior environment, and that's what we're trying to build at the moment. You know, I don't think throwing youngsters in when things are chaotic or things are turbulent is the best time. You know, even though sometimes there's a tendency to do that. You know, when you're desperate, just throw young players in. I think for real development, for the ones that you really believe, you know, have got a potential to make it is, you know, can you bring them into an environment where it's already established, you know, in terms of the way the team plays, in terms of the culture of the place, and you know, in terms of the first team, that's what we've been trying to build this year.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. Move on to the Embargoed section, starting for 10:30 p.m. tonight. John?
Hey, John.
You mentioned the importance of the atmosphere tomorrow night. Just how important is it, you know, going to be tomorrow night? I think your connection with the fans has been something quite exceptional. It must give you a great sense of pride throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's made a difference. I think, you know, even if you're at the game at the weekend, you know, whenever we've sort of been chasing victory or being behind, there hasn't been a real sort of anxiety in the stadium. It's been a real sort of push on the players. You know, we can do this. We've done it before, and I think it started, like, I think, with our second or third game against Sheffield United here. You know, when we won really late. then there was the Liverpool game, and it just built from there. And it's been an important part, I think, for us in the sort of stage we are as a team. If you're sort of fighting our supporters as well, trying to get them to get behind us, it would have made the season a lot more challenging than what it was. So, and it'll be important tomorrow night. It absolutely will be, because against City, there's going to be times when you're going to have to defend, you're going to have to suffer, you're going to have to work hard without the ball, and they're going to put you under a lot of pressure. And during those moments, and if we've got the crowd behind us, we can ride them, then we can have our own moments. We always finish games strong. We're a fit side, particularly when we're going down our end in the second halves. There aren't many games when we haven't finished strong, and tomorrow night's going to be important.
I know it's difficult to compare previous meetings, but your game with City was one of the best games of the season.
Yeah.
Probably, wasn't it? And I mean,
Yeah.
astonishing game must give you hope that you can attack them, expose frailties if they have them.
Yeah, look, I think, if you look at the top three in our games against them, they've all been, crackers. We haven't ended up on the winning side, I think, only once, but we've taken it to them, whether it was Arsenal away, City away, Liverpool away. We obviously got blown away in the first sort of hour of the game, but we still hung in there at the end and made it exciting. And even the Arsenal game here, again, we were sort of pressing towards the end. So I think the attitude we've taken into those games is, as I said, to not shy away from the challenge. It's easy to go in there and sort of try and keep things tight and maybe get a draw or, even win 1-0. But I don't think that shows where you're at. I think what shows you're at is when you go out there and you try and meet them playing your own football. And, we've obviously haven't conquered that part of it yet, but it's given us some belief that, if we keep improving, then, we've got a shot at knocking them off at some point.
Matt?
How quickly can Spurs close a gap to the gap like they are with City?
Yeah, really. It's hard to say, man. I mean, we're talking, 20-odd points or something, it's like, that's a fair chunk of, you're not saying, it's 3 positions on the table. You're looking at the points tally and you're going, well, there's a significant gap, not just with us, but at the same time, that's us at kind of the beginning of the process. That's us at hopefully, base camp in terms of creating a foundation and how quickly you get there. Again, I think if you put time frames on it, you're either putting too much pressure on yourself to achieve something that's difficult, or you're limiting yourself if you say it's 5 years down the line. When why should it be 5 years down the line or 3 years down the line? Why can't it be next year? So, my belief with all these things is it's not about sort of bridging the gap. It's about improvement in yourselves. If we can be a better team next year than we were this year, logically you say we get closer. How much closer will depend on how much better we are, but putting time frames on it, I just don't think it's going to help us both, if I put unrealistic ones or even try and put some sort of logical sort of time frame around it.
Tom?
Following on from Matt's question, really, I think you talked about City's size of the squad last week. They seem to have 2 great players in every position. I know before you said that there's still a lot of business to be done this summer, not just 1 or 2 top players. I mean, is that kind of where you want to be at with the way you play? You've got to have the 2 top players.
Well, I think you have to. I think if you look at the top teams, that's part of the process. Especially as you know, we haven't had European football this year. If you've got European football as well, it's impossible to try and maintain a level of performance in the Premier League and play multiple competitions unless you have a strong squad. But that's probably the biggest challenge, because that can't be done in sort of 1 or 2 or 3 windows unless you've already got a real strong sort of base to start with. Because it takes time, players evolve, some move out, because by the time you hit the sweet spot of saying, all right, we're ready for success, even some of the ones who are key now may not be there. And so it's a constant reinforcement of your squad and trying to fill those gaps in. And like I said, we've had 2 windows to kind of start the process. It's going to take multiple windows for us to get to that point. If we get our windows right, and I think we've been really good so far, I think the business we've done so far has been excellent, but we're going to have to be that good all the time, pretty much, if we're going to bridge that gap, to Matt's point, quicker.
And on the subject of goal-scoring defenders, Mickey and Pedro, Guardiola, when he signed for City, everyone knew what an amazing talent as a centre-back defender he was. But I don't think many saw him being the sort of regular goal scorer he's been in the last sort of 7 games. Both yourself and Pep are quite creative in the way that you look at players in a different way to everybody else. Did you see what's into him coming?
No, but I mean, you know, look, if you're starting with fantastic footballers, it's a pretty good place to start. You know, I've always felt that, you know, that's, you know, if you get the right kind of player, the right kind of mentality, then you're right. You know, everyone sees that in you know, in a different light. It's like a work of art, mate. We all have our own opinions of why it's good or why it's not good. So, but yeah, he's been outstanding. But like I said, you could see he was an outstanding footballer. You know, both for his national team and obviously his club football and again, I guess the beauty of being where City are at the moment, you don't have to force those things. They can almost happen organically. So he wasn't thrown in and said, you're going to play this way. You know, you've almost seen him evolve, and they can do that because they've got the squad. Whereas for teams like us who are just beginning the process, we're kind of just going, you know, guys get out there and sink or swim almost, you know, whether that's Van der Ven or Destiny or Porro or Pape or Brennan Johnson. It's, you know, we can't blood these guys over half a season and allow them to sort of get to grips with our game and the Premier League and all that. So that's where it becomes a little bit more challenging, whereas I think when you've got a solid squad, you can bring guys in and you can allow them to sort of find their space a little bit more organically.
Just finally, earlier you said, I think you said bragging rights are sort of meaningless to you at least. But for Tottenham, with their lack of trophies, as we all know for the last 20 years or so, it's been one of their most sort of celebrated things is getting on over their rivals. I suppose does the fact that you're sort of suggesting it to me suggest where you want to take this club, that it's beyond, you know, having those kind of slight growth.
Okay, so I assume over the last, when was the last time the club won a trophy? 15?
2008.
Yeah, I suppose in these last 15 years, there's been years where Tottenham have had bragging rights. Yeah, there's no. I walked through the halls, mate. There's no bragging rights trophies in there. There's none. The pictures on the wall do not show players with a big sign saying we got bragging rights. They've just got pictures of Bill Nicholson and the people who've actually achieved, and that's where I want to get us. And you know what? Funny thing is, if you win trophies, you tend to have bragging rights as well. So, and like I said, I just want to make sure that we stay clearly disciplined, focused on that. Look, it'd be easy for me to say that, you know what, just getting one over your rivals is most important, and you could do that and not win anything, and I feel great about myself, and maybe the fans feel good about me, but we can't be successful if that's our goal. Have real goals. You know, the real goal is, like I said, success to me means trophies, and until we do that, the rest of it, we just got to make sure that we stay laser focused on, you know, what we wanted to achieve.
Ed?
Just on one of the other summer signings you didn't mention before, James Maddison seems to be coming back into a bit of form, played quite well the weekend. Do you think he could be the key against City to sort of unlocking that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, he could be. You know, Matters, again, you know, he's just had one of these kind of seasons like a lot of our guys when they were at their best. You could see just, you know, how impactful they can be on a game of football. And I thought on the weekend especially, he was right back at it. He was, you know, he was really creative. He was working hard. He looked fitter, you know. He was a couple of runs he made where, you know, they couldn't keep up with him, and that was him earlier in the year, and it's taken him a while to get back physically more than anything else to that level. And it's a big thing for footballers. I know, you know, we tend to focus on you know, their technical ability, and especially for guys like Matters, sometimes even they think that that's the most important part of the game. But if they're not physically right, especially in the Premier League, you just won't get away with it. And it's taken him a while to get back to that level because he missed so much football. And you know, in the meantime, yeah, it's fair to say probably he lost a bit of confidence along the way as well. But you know, I thought on the weekend he was, like I said, he was back to, you know, the levels we saw earlier in the year. And when he's at those levels, he can be, you know, he can hurt any team, you know, with his creativity, his running, his ability to score goals, create goals. And yeah, I think he'll be very important for us tomorrow night.
Has he got, you know, sometimes the bruise maybe to get an England score, you know, that's a real incentive for him?
Yeah, look, I'm sure it is, but again, that's where, you You know, even for him and for all our guys, you know, you can't just turn it on because something is out there that you think is important. You have to do it all the time. That's all these other things take care of themselves. You know, you can't just say, well, I'm going to try real hard now because, you know, I want to get into the England team for the Euros. You know, you've got to get into those kind of things, to achieve those things, you just got to do it consistently and focus on, you know, the day-to-day stuff. And like I said, you know, in fairness to Matters, his training's been, you know, a lot stronger recently because he's been able to get out there every day and train hard, and I thought we saw the benefits of that on the weekend.
Okay, we'll finish with Dan for 12 o'clock tomorrow, please.
Hi, Ange. You mentioned earlier that it's a good test to face City. I just wondered if you perform the way you want the team to perform or win it, to what extent can an individual game kind of be a springboard or a landmark result to progress?
Yeah, it can be. Not the result, the performance, because like I said, if you go out there and you try and sort of be who we want to be and that actually gets you a good performance and it gets you a result as well, then that has to give you belief, because then you kind of leave that as your measure. You say, well, if we can do it against City when they're going for a title and they're at their best, if we can play our football and win, not just win, because you can win, like, you know, we could get a 1-0 tomorrow night and they could hit the crossbar 10 times and Vic can pull off 50 saves and think it's some sort of achievement. I don't think that. I just think, okay, it's a great result, whatever, but is that really a sign that you've bridging the gap? No. So, you know, that's where the key component is, that, you know, and it's not easy to do, but are you prepared to truly measure yourself? Because truly you measure yourself also means that there could be a negative outcome. You know, you find out that we're a hell of a long way off. And that's quite a scary prospect. But I've always gone into these things thinking, well, I'd rather know than not know. So for me, that's what it's about. If we can go out there tomorrow night, you look at what City's done in recent times against good opposition and really play well against them, you know, sort of really unsettle them, and then that gets us a win, then I think it is an important moment in our development.
And I would say actually on that point, a lot of Spurs home wins over City have been kind of 1-0s where they've hit the crossbar sort of 10 times. You know, I take it there's not much you can really take from those previous times.
Oh, look, I mean, you can take the result, absolutely, and depending on how your season's gone, it could be an important 3 points, absolutely. But for where we're at right now, I just don't see what that's going to show us that we don't already know, because particularly in football, you know, anybody can pretty much win on any day in the Premier League. Is that a sign of where you're at? I don't think that's always the case.
And can I just ask you about Rodri? I mean, he's probably been City's most important player. He's on this sort of seam, unbeaten run at the moment. I'm sure every team will love a player like him, but I mean, do you feel your squad's missing a kind of enforcer who can shield the defence in that way? No, because I think every player's effectiveness is dependent on kind of the way the team plays, and I just think the way City plays, Rodri is a very key component of it for sure. He's an outstanding player, and again, you know, he's grown into it. He's become more and more of an influence in you know, recent years, and you can see how important he is to them as a team. But I think that's, you know, some of that is just a function of, like I said, they've got a real settled way of playing. They've got a stability about them. They've got a real strong sort of winning mentality that's been there for quite a while. And in those kind of environments, people, I think, like Rodri, thrive. But you know, from our perspective, it's about finding our own players to play our system and hopefully become just as effective.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.